Welcome back to What I Do Believe, podcast about letting go of criticisms and frustrations and anger about what we don't believe anymore and the people who still do believe those things, and instead turn towards healing, turn towards hope, and turn towards focusing on what we actually do believe. My name is Zach. Thanks for joining. Glad you're here. And I think what I want to talk about today is that there's probably only one major reason that I still believe in God these days. I mean, there's probably a bunch of reasons, some deep reasons, philosophical, emotional reasons, but the one that really keeps me holding on to faith these days, and the one that I keep coming back to, is this. I believe in God because I want to. That's the main reason. I believe in God because I want to. And honestly, that's what keeps me holding on. There's all this pressure, especially if you grew up in certain circles, to have the right answers and certainty and to be explained and prove what you believe and defend the faith and blah, 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 blah. Give the reason for that hope that is within you, that Bible verse, whatever. But I don't have a bulletproof argument, and I'm not too concerned about that. I'm not even trying to have one anymore. What I do have is desire. Like I believe in God. Maybe I'm able to believe in God because I want there to be a God. I want there to be love behind everything. I want there to be meaning. I want there to be purpose. I want there to be a higher power. I want there to be love that I come from, and love that I'm going to, and love that's everywhere and that holds me and doesn't go anywhere. And that's true, everywhere. And my understanding from human psychology is that everybody else wants that too. In fact, it's pretty important in order to have a sense of ability to be mentally healthy, is to have a sense of purpose and be a part of something bigger than yourself. So whether you would argue that need to be a part of that comes from God, or, we've just been culturally conditioned to need that psychologically because that's the way things have been so long, I don't really care. Point being, nihilism is not good for me, and I want to believe that God is real, God is there, and that everything's going to be okay because of that. But let's be real. I mean, well, I don't know, maybe the billboards would disagree with what I'm about to say, and certain people would disagree with what I'm about to say, but I think if we're honest, there really is no proof either way. No proof. I can't prove to you that God exists. I can't. And so I'm not going to waste my time trying to do it. And nobody else can prove to me that God doesn't exist. At least no proof that is compelling enough to just absolutely prove the truth of it. I mean, there's evidence. Sure, I see that billboard all the time. There is evidence for God, and yeah, sure, there's evidence. There's lots of it. There's also evidence against God, especially depending on, the arguments that are being made. There's a lot of counter evidence against some of the, arguments being made. But the point is that I don't think you can prove it. I don't think you can disprove it. So how do you know? Well, I think it's whichever one that you want to believe. That's probably what you're going to find. Yeah, that's called confirmation bias. Whichever side your bias leans toward, that's probably going to be where you are going to land. And I honestly don't think God is going to force anybody to see beyond their bias, at least on this side of the dirt. And maybe that feels like a cop-out or kind of a weak place to be for some of us, but for me, it's very freeing. Because like I've been talking about for a long time, it means this whole thing isn't about certainty. and believing the right things, which is honestly such a fascinating idea to me. If you're a part of a belief system that says your salvation is dependent on you believing the right things, you have to believe the right things to be saved, then when you think about it, your faith really isn't in God. It's in your ability to be correct about God and to think correctly about God. Your faith is in your own intellectual ability or your own willingness to accept it. It's really not in God anyways. But anyways, it's not about any of that. It is about openness. It's about what you're open to, what you're willing to be shaped by, and what you're open to finding out, and maybe what you're hoping to find out and hoping to discover. And when it comes to what I'm hoping for, I'm hoping that God is like Jesus. And it's what I've experienced to be true so far. And I still want that to be true. Not a God that's like modern American pop culture Christianity, in the political mascot. I'm interested not in a God who is like most forms of Christianity that I see, but a God who is like Jesus. The Jesus who heals, who tells stories, who is with people. The Jesus who is more human than a lot of times we're willing to, pay attention to. Which, if that's the case, if Jesus is more human than often we're willing to consider, and also fully God, then that tells us a lot about where God really lives. That means that God can be fully present within humanity. And I think that's part of what I find so compelling about the Christian story, is that God is found most fully in the mundane, in the everyday. To consider that the fullness of God was in Jesus, I think it encourages us to consider that we will find the fullness of God in our lives, in our own incarnation, in our own bodies, in our own lives, in our own interior lives. So, that's definitely not a thought that I had in Christian circles growing up. It's definitely not necessarily the main point of the incarnation that was given to me, but especially in the last couple of years, it has become one of the most powerful and important implications of the Christian story, is that if God is fully present in the fully human experience of Jesus, then that's where God is present in me, in my full human experience. But anyways, that's the God that I want to believe in. What I want to believe, and so I do. It's what I choose to believe, especially since nothing else can be proven either way. And I'll take a quick second here to just speak to what I know is a common criticism, or maybe a retort to what I was just saying. And it's kind of the slippery slope that I was warned against my whole life, which is the dangers of just, taking parts of the Bible that you like, leaving parts out, and just making God in your own image, and deciding to only worship or follow God as you want God to be. And yeah, I can definitely see how what I'm saying could be misconstrued in that way. But I don't really see it as me saying, well, I want God to be this way and that way, and so that's just what I'm going to choose to believe. I'm not talking about believing in a God that is in alignment with my lesser desires, or maybe the things that I want that are more connected to my false self. I'm talking about wanting to believe that God really is love for all people, and that God really is working actively to make all things new. And yes, I want to believe that. I choose to believe that, but also there are some things about that challenge me. There are things about that are difficult to accept, and things about that call me to rethink a lot of things and live differently. And so again, I don't think you can just dismiss what I'm saying by saying, oh, well, he just choosing to believe in whatever God he wants. And no, it's really not that simple. It's bigger than that. There's a lot of discomforting things about that, and challenges and things that are challenging there. So I still believe, and I still pray. And I still pray because I still believe. But as my beliefs have changed, the way I pray changes as well. I was thinking about this lately. When I pray, I really don't talk much anymore at all. I mean, definitely not out loud, but also like I'm not, within my mind, just speaking words or making sentences and kind of sending those, mental emails up to God. I don't really do that anymore. And that wasn't by conscious choice. It just kind of slowly stopped happening over time. I don't feel the need to narrate my thoughts to God like I'm, writing a letter or just speaking or anything like that. Prayer mostly for me is just paying attention now. It's either sitting and listening, or it's, paying attention to my interior life and what's going on in me and around me as I'm out and about and doing things. I notice what's happening in me. I notice my thoughts, my emotions, my longings, and I just offer that to God. I just trust that whatever I'm experiencing, God is with me in that. And that awareness kind of sanctifies those experiences. It kind of makes them mean a little bit more than if I was having them without the awareness of God's presence in them. I'll just say for me, God doesn't need me to talk so much. Maybe he doesn't need anybody else to. Like I said last episode, I'm really not trying to tell other people what to do or how to think, but I do think it's possible that a lot of people need to learn to just shut up. I mean, sometimes when somebody prays, especially in like a church gathering or something like that, it's like a TED talk for God or something like that, when people just get up there and they want to say, Lord, we know this and we know that, and your word says this, it's like I'm sure God gets really tired of us telling him who we think he is and what we think he's up to, especially when we're wrong, like we probably are most of the time. And I just think, I don't know. I just think maybe we should just be quiet. Stop telling God who we think he is and what we want him to be up to. And almost like if we say it enough times in prayer, then that makes it true. And just be quiet and just pay attention to what God is doing, and just let God reveal those things. Let God speak, maybe. And so I think that's why I don't use a lot of words in prayer anymore, because prayer has, especially lately, become not so much about communicating information as much as it's just about connection. It's about union, awareness of presence. So, yeah, I still believe in God because I want to, and therefore I still pray because I want to. And there might be some interesting thoughts on this episode on both sides of the aisle. The skeptics are going to have problems with what I say, and, firm believers are going to have problems with what I just said here, mostly because I'm unwilling to fully join either of their camps. But I really think that's where it is. I think that's the way. It's where I live. And if you're somewhere in the same boat, if you're not sure what you believe, but you're choosing to hold on to some things, if you still want to believe, if you want there to be a God, then that might be just all you need in order to pray and to just get in touch with your true self and be present with your true self, and try to notice how you being present to yourself opens up the opportunity for you to notice how God is present to you as well. So maybe that's all you got to do. So pray, even though you don't know him. And even if you're not sure what you believe, just sit, be still, and see what happens. So thank you for listening to this episode of What I Do Believe. If you find this episode helpful, please share it with somebody else. Please subscribe to the podcast. Please rate it. Giving it a 5-star review in whatever platform you're listening on definitely helps other people find it. This podcast also has a companion newsletter on Substack titled the same thing, What I Do Believe. A lot of the time, my writing there will be a complement to my thoughts shared on the podcast. So if you are interested in reading, not just listening, do not hesitate to go over and check out that Substack, What I Do Believe, and you will get updates on a weekly basis into your email. Thanks for listening. Take care. See you next time.